Okay, welcome to this video where I'm going to be taking this self-portrait sculpture study that I did as a demo for the portrait sculpting course, and I'm going to be adding a beard onto it because while it took me a little while to get convinced that it was the right thing to grow my beard out fully, it's grown on me. The beard has grown on me. And so now I want to change the self-portrait to basically represent my new bearded self. And I'm going to do things a little bit differently in this video. So I'm actually going to be live streaming this. If you're watching right now during the live stream or after the live stream has gone down, or when the live stream is still up. But I'm going to talk and try to demo in a way that I'll be able to cut the whole thing together into a shorter video once the live stream is done. So I just thought this might be an interesting way to go about things. So if there are comments, I might be able to get to those, but I might not be able to get to them just as I'm demoing how to add a beard onto this sculpture. I'll also change the setup a little bit from my traditional live streaming setup. And yeah, so I might repeat myself a few times just because sometimes it's good to have a few options when you're editing. So you guys, this is kind of a behind the scenes, I guess we could call it, with the production of a video. So, all right. I'm Andrew Joseph Keith, and in this video, I'm going to be adding a beard onto a self-portrait sculpture that I did as a demo for the portrait sculpting course. And if you're interested in portrait sculpting, there's actually a free PDF that is a portrait sculpting assignment checklist, has links to all of the free video lessons that I've done on the portrait, including one of the videos on sculpting this, what I call the 10 steps to portrait sculpting. Really helpful video. Check it out if you're interested, and let's go ahead and get into the sculpting part of this video. So, actually, as we are going about it, I need to grab my reference images, which I took ahead of time. So let me go grab those. I'm actually going to zoom in and get the camera set up to be able to see the sculpting part of it. I'm going to be standing on this one, and I will zoom in a little bit. You'll have to forgive me because I won't be in the shot as much in this video. But let me get a turnaround so you can see what the sculpture looks like before we add the beard and after. So let's see. Make sure we're in focus. I'm actually going to change the settings a little bit on the camera so that more is in focus. So I'm going to raise the ISO, and then I'm going to close the shutter a little bit to about F. Let's go F. Let's go 16. 18, 16. Yeah, 16 looks good. And that way we can kind of see hopefully what's going on. Some of the areas of the sculpture are a little bit dark, or get a little bit dark as we're sculpting. As far as clay, this clay is, what is it? So this clay is Dollar Tree non-drying modeling clay, and what I did, it comes in a bunch of colors, and I took out some of the darkest colors and melted everything else to get this brown color. But you'll notice, when I work the clay like this, it's a little bit duller. It doesn't shine as much, but I found that when you let the clay set for a while, it just kind of gets this shiny finish. You can see where I think this sculpture was dropped or something, or something was placed against it, and some of that shiny finish is starting to come off. But if I work the surface, that shininess comes away. So for whatever reason, that's what it's looking, or that's what happens with this type of clay. So let me see. I'm actually going to pause the recording, so I'm also recording this, and I'm gonna do APS-C frame. So I'm filming on the Lumix S5, which allows me to zoom, or to switch from full frame to APS-C crop, and I want to do that just so that I have the option to punch in and zoom in a little bit if I feel like I want to zoom. Okay, let me grab those reference images and then we will get going. So I apologize. Mr. Black Cat says hi, hello. And I need to go grab the reference images for this. So like I said, this live stream, let me turn the mic. I don't know if you'll be able to hear for a little bit, but this live stream is going to be a little bit different. I'm just filming the entire process of making a video. So right now, actually, I guess I can turn so you can see what I'm doing. So now I need to grab on the computer the reference images that I took. This room is a mess. I wasn't planning on showing this part, but here we go. Okay, let's see. Going to select these two and airdrop them to my iPad. Let me grab that. So I'll have reference images that I took of myself that I can look at while I'm doing the sculpture, and I'll just keep those on the iPad. And then I'll also have a mirror that I'll be working from. Let's see, this is going to take a moment to send that. So let me come back over here. It says hi, hello, welcome to this live stream. Again, this is a little bit different. I'm going to actually, we'll come right here. Maybe shoot some possible thumbnails for this. So I'm just moving things around. This is kind of a behind the scenes of making a shorter video. So this will eventually be edited into a shorter, maybe 5-10 minute video of me adding a beard to this sculpture. But for right now, I'm just filming the entire process and then I'll edit it together afterwards. So if you have questions, I'll try to answer those, but this is just kind of a behind the scenes live stream. It's something different, but it probably won't be as structured as my typical sculpting live streams, so there's going to be some pros and cons to that. If we zoom out, see, I should have plenty of clay to use for this. Again, this is non-drying modeling clay that I got from Dollar Tree. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's non-drying, so you can use it over and over again. This sculpture that I started and finished months ago, I can add clay onto it and sculpt just like I started it yesterday. So That's the advantage of this type of clay. The disadvantage is you have to make a mold and cast it if you want it to be permanent. Okay, let me see if that transfer. Yes. Okay, yeah. So now it looks like that transferred. Looks like those files transferred over, so let me show you. This footage will be unedited, so it's but here you can see how I can control the angle that I'm seeing. I can see that beard from different angles, and we're just focused on the beard for this one. My hair's a little messed up. I have the headphones. When I listen to those, then my hair gets all messed up. But we're just focusing on the beard. Okay, that looks good. So, gonna have this on the side. And I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in. I also want to lift the camera angle up just a little bit. Not that much. Just so that if my shoulder doesn't get in the way or something like that. Okay. Okay, so just like if I'm sculpting a portrait from the beginning, I want to turn to the side view and make sure that the silhouette is working from the side. And we're actually going to be adding in the silhouette of the beard right here. Zoom out just slightly. So here you can see the reference that I'm working with and the sculpture, and I'm just going to try to copy this silhouette, this rough silhouette of the beard, and that way it kind of gives me a starting point to work from. There's also, it looks like this sculpture has been damaged a little bit, or it fell and kind of squished it in some areas, and so I might have to work out those details, and I'll just kind of work on it all around, but this one we're specifically focusing on the beard. So let's go ahead and get into this part. And to take these reference images, I just put a softbox light behind my head, and then I had this other main softbox light that I use for filming my videos, the key light, and then I just turned around slowly while I was recording, and that gives me 360-degree view to be able to work from and change the angle and make sure that I'm observing the shape of the beard from all angles. And that's really the most important thing, is not thinking about the beard as something different from the other features, but just as another mass, another form that we're sculpting in space. Okay, I'm going to turn to the front, just draw a center line that I'm going to be drawing on, or that I'm going to be trying to add that beard onto. and turn it to the side. And just taking little pieces of clay, adding them right like that. So my beard actually doesn't have a ton of mass, like right underneath my nose. There's like a little bald patch right there, so there's not actually a lot, but the silhouette, I'm just going for the silhouette right now, so I might push this off to the side after. Okay, and then we have this kind of flavor saver area right below the lip, the, what do they call it if you just have that, I forget. Soul patch, that's what they call it, soul patch. Area of the beard, and then coming down the chin, and it looks like the beard extends down a little bit past the Adam's apple. I'm just pushing these pieces of clay onto the center line. Oh, maybe a little bit over from the center line. And so I'm approaching this the same way that I did with the rest of the portrait, starting with a outline from the side view, and then we're going to be filling that in from the front view. Let's see. This flips up a little bit. Something like that. That's probably about the amount of mass that's there in my beard. And so now, let's see, this is kind of bothering me up here. Let me just address that. That kind of fell and damaged the sculpture. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to turn to the front view, and we can just start filling out this mass. Let's go back. And from the front, it's just a normal, well, the beard starts kind of down here. I also have kind of like bald patches over here, so I'm just gonna include that the beard kind of starts a little bit below. Then we're gonna follow the mass down to the side, so it's coming down and forward. Here you can see that's coming down and forward, and then we'll decide how much that beard travels back later. But for now, we don't want to put it too far back because we want to build out the mass by slowly growing it rather than removing pieces of clay. So we're just going to just think about this angle coming forward, trying to follow the general shape of the beard forward. So he says, hello, bro. I love your works. Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know if you can hear that. You hear that, the sound of cutting clay? It's a little bit weird of a sound. Okay. We're gonna keep going. And the nice thing about this this clay is that it's pretty soft, so even when it's cold, you can move it around fairly easily. Whereas if you're sculpting with a firmer clay, that's a non-dry clay, then sometimes it takes a little bit to warm it up in your hand, or you have to warm it up in the oven a little bit. Let's see, so here you can see that I'm thinking very two-dimensionally as I'm starting, you know, basically drawing a line in space with a wall of clay. So there's a line here, a line here. Now it looks like I have one of those fake Santa beards that's like pulled down over my chin or under my chin. But we'll okay. And the beard really changes the shape of the face. That's why sometimes if you're sculpting somebody with a beard, it helps to imagine them without a beard first, because if you're sculpting with that beard, what we want to do when we put in the beard, we think of that as the chin, and then we want to move the eyes down. I've done that in the past when I was sculpting somebody, a live model who had a beard, and when I was doing the portrait, I wanted to bring the eyes down to basically say that the beard was the chin, and usually, you know, the proportions are the eyes are about midway in the face, but when you add a beard onto that, it makes the chin larger and really changes the whole shape of the face. And so that's why a lot of people prefer having a beard. Some women prefer men that have beards. My wife prefers the beard on me, so that's good enough for me. So there you can see how that's coming along. And again, at this stage I'm looking at it from the front view. Whoops. Making sure that I'm capturing that silhouette or outline from the front view. Just looking at these lines right here. Okay. Now we can start to outline the shape. So in this sculpture, it looks like I did have a little bit of a goatee. But now we can actually come and draw out the shape of the beard. So like I said, I have like a little bald spot right here. So I'm going to put that in. And then my mustache starts just a little bit off from the center line. Going to push this in just a little bit. But I think the beard does help the shape of my face because I actually have a pretty, like when my mouth is closed and my teeth are together, the bottom of my chin is is not, it's not very pronounced. So my chin is a little bit closer to the nose than the average. And so it makes that chin look smaller, which is generally not a good look. But when I grow that beard out, then it lengthens that and feels a little bit more natural. So then we have this soul patch area, and we have the hair here. But I'm not thinking about texture too much at this point. I mean, you can think about like what direction is the hair going, and then maybe, you know, lay pieces of clay in that direction, like up here with the mustache. But for the most part, you're just thinking about it as a mass, as a shape. You're not worried about, or not too worried about the texture of it. That's a common beginner mistake, is getting into the texture too early or making the texture too dramatic, and it actually kind of detracts from and distracts from the shape, and it can make it look more amateur rather than more realistic. Then my beard is also a little bit thinner on the cheeks, so I'm going to allow it to kind of blend up here once I get to that. So here you can see what it's looking like at this stage, how it's coming along. Just adding pieces of clay. Sometimes I'll put the clay in so that there's a little air pocket inside, and that just saves some clay. And you don't really need a ton of structure inside the clay. So like with this area right here, you know, I could fill that in all the way, or I could just take a piece of clay and just cover it up. So I'm just going to cover that spot right there. And then I'm looking at the line of the beard, you know, and again, it's thin up here, so it's going to kind of blend into the cheeks, blend into the temple area over here once we get there. Now I'm going to look at it from the 3/4 view a little bit, from about this angle right here, and try to capture the shape of the beard from this angle. So I'm turning it to look like right here. What's the shape of it from right here, the 3/4 view? And for me, it comes out, the mustache comes out on the 3/4 view, and then it comes out right here quite a bit. it kind of bulges out and then tapers down. So the high point is about where my actual chin is. It's where the high point is and then tapers towards the bottom. So there you can see that line of clay. And then once I have that in place, then I can just round to this other wall of clay that I've drawn out. You can just round this off by adding pieces of clay in between those two. Let's do the same thing on this side, looking at this line right here. It'll probably be about the same, but sometimes there is a little bit of a discrepancy between the sides. It's about the same. But this side, I can't see that high point as much, but I know that it's in, so I'm gonna still try to exaggerate that a little bit. And then connect everything by just adding pieces of clay. So now I've looked at the side for these lines. I can draw those in. So I've looked at what the silhouette looks like from these lines and then from also this side view. Now I'm just rounding things off. So I'm just filling in that negative space in between those. Because the general shape of my beard is pretty round. And there, you can shape the beard, people, and I have shaped this, like I've trimmed areas, so I prefer a little bit thinner around the ears, even though usually if you have a patchy beard or it's not really thick in areas, you don't want to thin it down, but I just don't like long hairs getting into my ears, so I have thinned that area down. And but for the most part, I've just allowed the roundness to stay, and then I also trimmed a little bit down here. Okay, so now I'm going to look at it from the side, from this side view, to see the shape of that. And it just wraps around and comes forward. So we got that high point, comes down, and then this does travel in. I feel like I might have changed the shape of that a little bit, so I'm just gonna say that it's about like that, then round off from that once we have laid that in. And I might feel that, maybe some areas I'll have laid out too thick. I can always just push those in a little bit. I'm going to go back to the front view because I feel like it's like a little bit too wide. So I'm looking at this distance between here and here. That's the widest point of the skull, and I'm seeing, like, does my beard pass that? And some hairs go past it, but I think the main mass of the beard is within that high point on the back. So I'm actually going to trim this side part down just a little bit. By pulling off some clay. So I'm just thinning this out right here. Just join. What clay are you using? This is a non-dry modeling clay I got from Dollar Tree. Just a cheap non-dry modeling clay. Came in a bunch of colors, and I melted together most of the colors except for the darkest ones to get this this reddish brown that I like. Let's go to the other side and fill in this area. And we're getting pretty close to there when it comes to the mass of the beard. So pretty soon we're gonna start working on the texture, and I'll show you how I like to approach that. Yeah, this is a soft clay. Soft clays work great for larger sculptures because you can move things around pretty quickly. For smaller sculptures or super detailed sculptures, you usually want something a little bit firmer. Also seeing that this ear is a little bit more attached right there. I'm just going to add that. Okay, so here's what it's looking like at this point where I've laid in the mass of the clay by building out those walls to represent different angles. And I feel pretty comfortable with the shape and form. It doesn't feel too wide right now. And so I think I can start to go in and texture this sculpture. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me actually just add a couple more pieces here. And again, if you're interested in portrait sculpting, you think you might like to learn more about how to sculpt the face and the facial features, then I would definitely recommend checking out the portrait sculpting course. And if you can't afford that full course, there's a free PDF that has all of the free lessons. It has links to all the free lessons that you can download. There's a link in the description. And that way you can start doing the assignments. You can learn from the free lessons, do the assignments, check those off, and if you do that consistently, you'd be surprised how fast you can improve and get better at sculpting the portrait, which is a really fun, it's really fun. It's a difficult thing. The portrait is difficult. Everything about it is hard and hard to learn to do, hard to become good at, but if you're ready for a challenge and you'd like to speed up that process, then I definitely recommend checking out that free PDF and then getting the full course if you're really committed to mastering the portrait. So here's what that's looking like right now. All right, let's go ahead and start to texture. So for this, I have my favorite tool. This is kind of a little spatula tool. It's the tool I used to get the texture for the rest of this sculpture. Though you can see that clay is kind of shiny when it sets up for a while. But I'm going to go to the side view with my reference. And I'm just going to take this tool and try to actually blend in the beard to the area of the skin. So there's going to be some areas where, you know, that separation between the beard and the skin is very soft, and that's actually true in reality. Generally, I mean, unless you have somebody with a really thick beard and then they cut the line, sometimes you see that and there's like a very distinct line. But for the most part, where the hair transitions to the skin, whether it's in the forehead or in the beard, it's generally a soft transition because you know, it starts thinner and then that hair gets thicker as it moves down. So I'm going to try to keep that very soft, especially since my beard is very thin in these areas. You can see as I do that, the mass itself is communicating that this is a beard. I don't even have to do a different texture than the rest of the portrait. I can just say with the mass that this is a beard, but I'm not treating it differently. I'm not texturing it differently. I'm not getting like an actual comb out and brushing it. In fact, let me do that. Let me show you guys what it looks like if you overdo the texture. So this is a beginner mistake that I see all the time. We're going to take a comb and we're just gonna give texture to the beard. So, you know, we're just gonna put hair on the beard. And to me, when I see this, let's zoom in a little bit. To me, when I see this kind of texture, it just feels amateur, and it doesn't feel soft. It makes it feel like coarse and strange. And somebody described it as like metallic. That if you have these lines, or if you just like go through and just like make a bunch of texture lines, that it doesn't actually look very good. And so what I recommend and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to treat it just like any other mass. And I'm just going to smooth it out. I'm going to allow that line between the beard and the cheek to disappear entirely. And I'm just going to let the mass speak for itself. And I'm not gonna mess with the texture too much. Now, you might think that this, you might think that it looks better with this thick texture. Maybe somebody has a really dark beard, and so you want to show that with lots of thick texture, and that's an artistic choice that you can make. But if you're not thinking about it, and if you don't realize that the main thing that differentiates it is the mass and where it's placed and the shape of it, those are the main things, the most important things to get right first. And if you can get those things right, then the texture is much less, you don't need the texture as much to be a differentiator between the skin and the beard. It just kind of speaks for itself. Somebody says, I always find the hair hard to do. I did a horse mane and found it difficult. Yeah, I think a lot of the difficulty comes from you're just thinking about it like hair, like you're sculpting hair. But just think about it like you're sculpting something soft and flowing, a soft flowing form that doesn't have the individual hairs in it. It's just a soft form in space. And if you do that, then generally you'll be able to find more success with with sculpting it more accurately and in a way that feels more lifelike. If there's areas where I feel like it needs just a little bit more, I'll just grab a piece of clay with the tool, and then place that on. Gonna take a little piece and smooth out this transition. Make that nice and smooth, dragging that clay up to smooth out that transition between the cheek and the beard. Let's keep going to the side. I'm trying to, as I'm texturing, I'm trying to kind of switch things up with either the direction of the form, or the direction of the stroke, or the shape of the form. Maybe I'll come in a little bit more in some areas, just to show that this is a different it's a different material than the skin. So you can play with the feeling of the form a little bit more. Let's blend this as well. Andrew, do you think that the Bodum method is usable for every part of the body or for just the head? So, Rach, oh, come on in. So is the Bodum method, and by the Bodum method, do you mean starting with like a simplified shape and then working on the outline from one view and then... Oh, I got my son wants to come in and join the party. Yeah. So generally simplifying it in a way that where you can tackle one angle at a time is a good idea for whatever part of the body you're sculpting. So I'd say that yeah, if you mean, you know, breaking it down, starting with a simple form that you can then basically add the silhouette on top of, just like I did with this beard, then it's a useful way to approach any part of the body. Because, you know, we have to simplify things or we get lost. I'm gonna put this mustache so that it's kind of coming to the same plane as the lip, kind of comes off similar way. But yeah, I'd say when you can simplify, when you can approach something one step at a time, focusing on only one silhouette or outline at a time, then that really does make things easier. And so I'd say if that's what you are referring to with the Bodo method, then I think that is a good way to approach almost anything for students. Now, once you're more experienced, then maybe you can develop the entire sculpture, kind of building it out from all directions, and you don't have to be as specific with where you start and the formula you use. But I found that the students that do follow that formula of just working on things one part at a time, that it really is a way to have a successful, good-looking sculpture that looks better than 90% of people that sculpt, just by approaching it a little bit more systematically. So he says, I sculpted a humanoid feline and it looks 23.6 inches tall. That sounds fun. Let's see. So here you can see there's the difference between the texture on that side, and then if I turn it to this side, the texture of just laying in the pieces of clay, and then once we start blending that in. And I actually feel like up here needs to be blended a little bit more. They're saying yes, starting with a pancake. So yes, I recommend starting, in a way that you can lay out a line of clay that represents a silhouette from one angle. That is it's a good way of approaching any part of the figure, especially if it's something complicated. The portrait is the most complicated, so it just makes sense to break it down into something that's easier. But any complex area, if you can get to a point where you can build out walls of clay that represent the outlines, just as I've done here, it can really make a big difference with how easy it is. But it's not, it's never easy. It's not going to be easy, but it can be easier. I'm going to go to this other side and work on that. Let me change the camera, or the reference image, a little bit. Great likeness, somebody says. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Chavant medium or hard, or any difference in the workflow? Yeah, the hard is really hard. So Chavant hard is almost like wax. So basically you have to heat it up if you want to be able to sculpt it by hand during any stage of the process. and the medium is it's more workable, you know, at room temperature, especially if it's been softened a little bit. I found that like when it's melted and then it hardens, it's a little bit more rigid. So like right out of the package, it's pretty rigid. But then once you start working it and soften it a little bit, then even when it cools down, it remains a little bit softer. So I'd say if you want to do something super detailed and super like have the texture be, you know, a very important part of the sculpture, or if it's really small, or you like working with a really hard sculpting material, then the Chavant Hard is a good material to use. But if you prefer something that you can work more by hand, then I think the medium is the way to go. And I melt a little bit of hard into the medium that I use. So I use about 1/4 hard and 3/4 part medium. And I also mix different colors. So I do a little bit of the tan hard mixed with the medium green. And so it changes the color a little bit, makes it a little bit less of an intense green. So that's what I do personally, because I like a little bit harder of a clay. But you know, it all comes with practice and trying different things out, and then seeing what works for you, what you like to use for your workflow and your environment. You know, if you're working outside and it's really hot or something like that, then you might prefer a hard clay. But if you're in a cold environment, you might prefer a softer clay. Or if you're doing large pieces, generally you'll want a softer clay. This clay is nice. It's nice and soft. It's a silky feeling clay, and it's cheap. It's at the Dollar Tree. Works well. Would you always sculpt the head first, then apply the hair after, or just sculpt the hair while it's putting on the primary forms? You know, maybe I'd probably usually sculpt the head without the hair to the point where I get to, so for the first like couple stages. But the hair's an important part of the silhouette. So once I'm laying in the silhouette, I want to lay in the silhouette of the hair as well, because that actually helps you see the likeness of the person. So you don't want to put the hair off too much, unless you're maybe you're doing an anatomical study or something and you want to get all the anatomy of the skull in place and then put the hair on. But if you're just trying to get the likeness of a specific person, then the hair helps, and getting the hairline accurate and the shape and mass of the hair from all different directions, not just from one view, that can be really, really helpful to help your eye distinguish and see between the reference and your sculpture, or to see the differences. So I wouldn't wait too long, especially if you're trying to go for an accurate representation of a specific person. And sometimes I like to try to do the tool marks in the direction that the hair is going. So if you see that the hair is traveling in this direction, you can do a couple of tool marks just, to give a little bit of an indication of that hair moving in that direction. But again, don't overdo it. Don't overdo that texture, because it's more about finding the form than texturing the surface. If you're interested in sculpting, again, you can check out the portrait sculpting course. And I recommend for most beginners to start off with the figure sculpting fundamentals course. There's a free PDF that goes over that, an assignment checklist that has all of the free lessons from that course. And so if you're interested in sculpting in general, but you don't know where to start, I'd start with the figure sculpting fundamentals course. You can even start off with all the free content and then move on to the full course once you're sure that you want to invest in it. And I appreciate anybody that invests in those full courses. That's how I make the majority of my income, and so it's a huge blessing anytime anybody gets those courses, and I really appreciate it. But I understand, not everybody has the resources to invest in an online course like this. So that's why I created the free content, the free PDF, and that should help you get started if you just kind of want to dip your toe in the water and see how it is and learn a little bit. Then I recommend those PDFs, and there's one for the figure and there's one for the portrait. We also have a hand sculpting course. I don't have a PDF for that one yet, but maybe I'll get one eventually. And I hope you do take advantage of those, especially the free stuff. If you like sculpting, if you're interested, then there's no reason not to take advantage of all that free content I've tried to make available. So he says, thanks a million for this. I've been searching the site for how to do a beard. 5-minute videos are all I've found. I will revise this many times, I'm sure. I will be revisiting this many times, I'm sure, rather. Well, yeah, no problem. And I will edit this into probably a 5 or 10 minute video. So that's why I'm sculpting it a little bit differently than I typically would do. Oh no. Oh, whoops. The memory card is full, so I need to switch that out. One sec. Hopefully I wasn't sculpting for too long. With that that recording stopped. We'll see. But I think I'll be able to get the majority of the content with this, with what I have. But I kind of like the idea of trying to do this more, where I'm doing the live stream for the process, but then I'll edit that together into a shorter clip after, and that way I can get more content. And not everybody wants to watch an hour demo or something like that, but they would be willing to watch a 5-minute video or a 10-minute video on adding a beard onto a sculpture. Self-portrait. Let's see, let's just gonna work on this under part of the beard, and I'm just primarily smoothing it out by rolling the tool, pressing it against the surface, and softening that line. I don't want a sharp transition anywhere, really, when it comes to the hair. I want it to be very soft. That just gives us a soft feeling that feels more organic. If it's a hard transition, like if I drew a sharp line for the transition to the hair in these areas up here, then it looks like a wig. It looks fake, because that's not how it would be if we took a 3D scan. You know, that transition would be very soft if the 3D scan even picked up the hair. Okay, it's coming along, but I do feel like it's a little bit more. I don't know if it's more like full, or there's not as much variation as I like. So I'm just gonna come with a tool and just bring out some negative space in some areas. And I'm not going to leave the texture like this, so I'm going to texture it back the way it was. But I just feel like some pulling out some inside areas might help. So I'm just coming in and kind of gouging out with this loop tool a few marks, and then I'm going to come back and texture it back. Somebody says, I think live streams are a great way to see the process of sculpting as it happens. Yeah, that's true. It's good to see like the full process. So I've kind of gouged out some areas, and now I'm just going to blend those so that the texture feels the same as the rest of what I've been working on. I think that texture, well, I'm trying to decide if I think that that texture adds, if it makes it a little bit better, or if it makes it worse. I don't know if I do prefer that texture. I'm gonna try to soften it a little bit. Maybe it's just too extreme. Those gouges in the beard. Just soften it a little bit. By rolling the tool over the surface. Blending those forms. I want the beard to feel soft. I don't want it to feel like it's, you know, like it's stone or something on top, just placed on top of a soft form. Even if it was stone, I wouldn't want it to feel like stone. You want it to feel like, you want it to feel soft and organic. Can I ask what your lighting setup is for sculpting? Yeah, absolutely. Let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see. So I have this softbox in the back. This is the backlight that you're seeing on this side. And then I have a key light that's a little bit closer, another softbox that are the same type of softbox. And I actually just got these on eBay. I think they were like $100 for two of them, or $120 or something like that. And they're just, there's like light bulbs inside of them. They work pretty well. Been pretty happy with them. And the soft box and then lighting it from each side helps with being able to see the form a little bit better. So I've liked this setup. Okay, I'm just gonna soften this area right here, and then I think we'll call it a day for this sculpture. But again, I hope you check out those links in the description for the sculpture assignment checklists, the PDFs, for the free PDFs for the figure sculpting course and for the portrait sculpting course. And then if you decide to get the full courses using those PDFs, then I really appreciate it. And if you're just interested in figurative art in general, then you might check out my ebooks, An Artist's X-Ray Vision. There's one on the male figure, one on the female figure. And those are just like $10 around there, and they help me out also. And they're full of helpful visual like diagrams and lenses through which you can view the figure to help you see like an artist a little bit better. That's why I called it An Artist's X-Ray Vision. Just like things to look for, gestures to be aware of, things like that. Let's see, I'm going to Thanks for sharing. We'll be checking out your courses. Well, I hope you do. Thank you. And yeah, I hope you are able to stay creative and stay productive. All right, I'm going to zoom out and we'll wrap up the video. Let me do this. So again, I'm doing this live, but I'm going to take the footage and then edit it into a shorter video. So I'm making sure that I get all the footage that I need for that. Let me zoom out. All right, thank you guys for watching. Again, I hope that you'll check out the free PDF that I have, the Portrait Sculpting PDF. It has all of the information, everything that I wish I knew when I started working on the portrait, and it's free, and it has a bunch of free assignments, and you can go watch the video lessons, check off those assignments. You can even create a free account over at Proko.com and submit images of your work so that I can see them and critique them, and so that the other sculptors over at Proko can see those. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. There's also the figure sculpting course and the hand sculpting course. All of those are available. And yeah, this was really fun. It was fun adding a beard, and now I feel like it's official. I've solidified this look into my image as an artist for now, and so I'm feeling good about it. The beard took a little bit to get used to, but what can I say? It's grown on me. All right, stay creative, stay productive, and hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video. Oh, something fell. Will the longer version still be available? Yeah, I'll keep up the live stream, so the live stream will be available. So yes, it will. Let me get a shot of the sculpture, turnaround shot of the sculpture, the final. For people to see, and then I'll be ending the video. Oh. Let's see, I need to. Oh, and the camera's gonna run out of battery, so I'm just in time, hopefully. All right, there's the finished sculpture.